How we doing, Nation? I know, an afternoon video, right? So I feel like it's finally time to have that very important talk. Let me sit y'all down. We're going to have that talk, son. No, I'm not talking about the birds and the bees. I'm talking about survival food here next on Prepper Nation. Good evening. Almost said good morning, Nation. How y'all doing? This is John. So I've been meaning to do this for quite a while now, and I rearranged some stuff here. We went through some stuff, trying to get a little more organized, did a couple of bags and things, but I digress. The point is, been meaning to do this a while because this is one of those questions that I commonly get. Now, sometimes people will ask, which survival food do you prefer? Which one should I buy? This sort of thing. And we'll get into that as well. Just full clarity, I'm not an affiliate for any of these survival food brands, so I'm going to give it to you straight as I see it. But something else I've been meaning to do, because every time we talk about survival food, we start talking about, the 30-day buckets, the 90-day buckets, the 72-hour buckets. And sometimes people have questions about, when I open that bucket, that magic bucket with 25 or 30 years shelf life, what's inside? What does it look like, son? What am I getting? Those things have gotten pricey right now. I think they're $30+ for the 72-hour buckets, which I've got a few here, as opposed to, well, they used to be about $18, $19, at least when we picked ours up. Now, that's been years back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. This is the Ready Wise brand. Again, I think. No, Augustin Farms. I'm sorry, Augustin Farms. See, I'm not an affiliate. There's an Augustin Farms bucket. This is a 48-hour bucket. I did at least remember to bring the same kind of bucket along because, again, this is what you see on the shelf when you're at the store. Some people, of course, some people are very familiar with survival food. Other people out there may not know a lot about it, or they may have just bought some and they don't know what they have sitting on their shelf, okay? So this one's actually sealed up. This one I went ahead and popped the top on, and it is good until 2050, March of 2050. So still got a while on it. But again, I popped the top on this so you can see exactly what you're going to get. And then I'm going to explain to you why I don't push a lot of survival food. I'm not here to bash survival food with this video. I think it has its place, but I think people obsess over it way too much, okay? And I'm going to explain to you why and why they're cheaper alternatives. So when you open the bucket, you're going to get hit with a bunch of packets. And I don't think people understand that. Some people don't realize that when they're buying the buckets, okay? Meaning, these are not split up into single serving use. So a lot of times when you're buying survival food for camping and stuff like Mountain House, Ready Wise, for example, on the shelf, single serving, it's packaged nicely. It's got the pretty pictures all over it. These are not buckets filled with those. All right. It is not portioned the way it should be. So the number one thing you're going to need with this, obviously, is water and a way to boil the water, right? But you're also going to need a way to save what you don't use, because again, these are packaged together. For example, this is creamy potato soup. Looks like 8 servings in here. So if you don't have 8 people ready to eat, okay, and the servings are very small, so even 4 people, if you have 4 people and you're going to double down on the servings, this is great. You can cook this, you're good to go. Again, with some boiling hot water. But if you don't, if you just buy yourself, for example, or you and your spouse, you're either going to have to batch cook it all at one time, or you're going to have to store it somehow, and in my opinion, I'm thinking really good freezer bags or something like that. There are plenty of different ways to store it once you get it out of this container. You can pop the top as long as the stuff stays in the container here. it's still good to go for the shelf life. All right. Now this is maple brown sugar, 10 servings in this pouch. So again, and they're very plain looking. I mean, they've got the nutrition information on them. It tells you what they are, and that's it. I mean, this is MRE basic level stuff in terms of the packaging. Here's why I don't push survival food very much on this channel. And I understand there's some good brands. I understand a lot of people are huge fans of it. I actually prefer the number 10 cans from like Augustin Farms and plenty of other companies as well, because I think they have their use as well. But 120 calories per serving. So even in an SHTF event, even if you're doubling down on portions, which if you're doubling down on portions, it's going to cut this in half. You understand this becomes a 24-hour box at this point because they're basing this 48 hours of readiness. People, okay, let me back up for a second. There's this misconception that, hey, I've got a family of 4, it says 48 hours on it. We're going to be able to eat for 48 hours. Okay. Nobody wants to eat 120 calories for a meal, whether you're in SHTF or not. That's just not a lot of food. That's not going to sustain you long term. And I think that the packaging, especially on some of this stuff, is misleading. Now, again, I do think it has a place. Emergency 48 hours. Okay, if you've got some of these stacked and you have a tornado come through your area or a hurricane or something, and the power's out and you have a way to heat water, which you should as a prepper, you're good for a while. Okay, but this stuff is not 5-star eating. I'm going to level with y'all, and this is not me picking on the Ready Wise brand. It's not 5-star eating. Okay. Buttermilk pancakes, 12 servings. So again, and there's not a lot here, right? So the calorie content there is 160. All right, you've got elbow macaroni, 160 calories. It looks like 10 servings, if I'm reading that correctly. This is going to be creamy chicken flavored rice. 240. So that one's kind of high up there. I mean, it's still low, but for survival food, it's on up there. You're going to notice also a pattern with a lot of your survival food, especially the buckets. It's mostly carbohydrates. Okay. So I think that survival food, again, has a place, but I think that you mix other things with it. Okay. So shoot an example here at you, creamy chicken flavored rice. If I have canned tuna to go with this, or pouch tuna or something like that, that I can mix in with this, I'm good to go. And then maybe a Gatorade type drink flavored, powder mix and stuff like this. But you don't want to survive solely on this. That's the rice. More elbow macaroni. You see what I'm saying? There's a lot of carbohydrates in here. And again, it's $30+ at the time I'm filming this. Cheese powder, 50 calories. So that's not going to add a lot. So if you mix the macaroni and the cheese together, which you're going to need to do unless you got another plan worked out, 210 calories per serving. So it is what it is, and that's the end of the bucket there. So this is why I don't push the survival food all of that much. I'm going to answer the questions. People, ask what's your favorite, what's the best to stack, and all this stuff. And I will link it down below. But again, I'm not an affiliate with Ready Wise or Mountain House or anything like that. I'm just going to give you my honest opinion. Starting with stuff like this. This is beefaroni, right? Yep, beefaroni. 210 calories. So outside of a couple of different varieties in that bucket, this actually has more bang for the buck in terms of calories. And it's a lot cheaper to stack. I mean, this is brand name. You can get store brand much cheaper than this. What you're paying for with survival food is shelf life. So again, I mentioned 25, 30 years. Depends on the brand, depends on the variety. This is going to be all over the place. Okay. Typically, the best buy date on canned food is 2 years. All right. If you get it as soon as they stock it, you're looking at around 2 years. But you can eat it after the shelf life has expired on it. It's just best by that date. You start getting into choppy waters when it's several years after the date. You need to smell it. You need to do all the things, make sure the can's not bulged out. Y'all know the drill on that. But this stuff is a much better prep, in my opinion, than this stuff. All right. The only thing I will give this is the shelf life and the convenience of not really having to rotate it all that often. I got these out. I had to clean some dust off of the packaging on the outside. The buckets. The buckets can be reused during SHTF. But in terms of, hey, if I was just getting started, how would I do this? Would I buy survival food? A lot of people get pulled into, they kind of get roped into that. The way prepping works is when you discover it, when that light switch kind of clicks on, okay? This is my opinion. When it clicks on for you and you understand how jacked up the world is, you can't prep fast enough. And a lot of people burn out for this reason. They go out, they just anything they can get their hands on, right? So in terms of food, I think a lot of people go out and they stack the expensive survival food. That's not even the expensive stuff. Some of it is. And they'll stack that to the rafters and then they'll be like, we're done with the food part. And this really needs to be its own video, but I'm going to go ahead and touch on it. I don't think that's the way you need to approach prepping, right? I think it should be more of a stair step. I mentioned this a week or two ago, a stair step deal where you're getting used to the concept of just putting a little back here and there. And you get used to the concept of looking at shelf dates, figuring out what lasts on the shelf a lot longer. You just can't do that with survival food. But anyway, to answer some questions, because I've tried, there's some store brands that I haven't tried out there in terms of the survival food. I've tried most of the MRE brands. There's a Z ration or a Z MRE or something that I haven't tried in red packaging. Full disclosure on that. The best tasting is nutrient survival when you get right down to it, but it is the most costly option. Maybe if you're going to stack survival food no matter what, and you want something that tastes good, maybe wait for them to run a killer sale. Or if you can find somebody that is an affiliate, I know Rudy at the Alaska Prepper is, if he has a discount code, maybe crash them at that time and stack it because it is the best tasting of all of the, the bucket stuff that I've tried. The the cheapest, I think, if you're just getting into it, is Ready Wise and Augustin Farms. Now, I will say this. There's a night and day difference between Augustin Farms out of a bucket for some reason and the number 10 cans Augustin Farms. I actually prefer the Augustin Farm number 10 cans. I'll try and link those below on Amazon as well. Sometimes you can catch them on sale, but I actually prefer those over the other brands. Out of a bucket, however, Augustin Farm and Ready Wise, they're kind of, as people have said in the chat before, they are the gruel among the other brands. And I think, if I had to do it over and I'm just stacking based on what it tastes like, the options that they give you and how much it costs, it's probably going to be Mountain House. And no, they're not paying me to say that. It's much better tasting than Oxen Farm and Ready Wise out of a bucket. It is cheaper than some of the other brands like Nutrient Survival. Again, sometimes you can catch Nutrient Survival. Maybe you can get it for the same price as Mountain House. In that case, I'm doing Nutrient Survival. But there you go. That's my unfiltered take on it. Just understand, folks, if you're stacking these buckets, and I know a lot of you are, just understand that when you open those up, you're going to have to cook it all at once, or you're going to have to portion it out and you're going to have to store it back into the buckets. Okay. So have something to do that. I mean, you might want to Mylar it back into smaller Mylar bags and seal them. You might want to do, we do freezer bags. That's the plan here. They're really good Ziploc ones. So anyway, this is John with Prepper Nation. Thank y'all very much for listening to the chat and supporting the channel. Man, again, I'm sorry it's an afternoon video. It's kind of out of left field, but there you go. Till next time, y'all take care and God bless.